If this is your first time looking at the system, this is the homepage after logging in to Egrants. I'm going to go over the major tabs before I go into any specifics for the MEPOL program. Okay. All right. So we're currently on the homepage where you'll see a task summary by phase. It's a very popular feature here where it breaks down each task that you may have per module in the system. So planning module usually is our funding opportunities, funding sources, any program detail. That's where you can find that information. Application, you can see the submitted applications. This is where you can look at reviewers and et cetera. And for the grants, you can look at the current revisions, amendments, and et cetera. And then post-grant, anything that has to do with, say, reimbursements, progress reports, and closeouts, and even annual reporting tasks would fall into here, post-grant. All right, and then from there, we see the breakdown of due dates, pretty self-explanatory, and then let's move on to the left. So at the bottom, we have our tech support, how to open a support case. You can click on this and this will create a ticket from the Louisiana admin side. And then useful links. So here, this is where we'll have copies of all of our guides. So of course, we're going to make some updates for the MEPOL section. But for now, this is essentially what I'm showing you here, just the overview and any key flows that are pretty useful, right? And so let's see, here we go. First time logging in. This is essentially what I'm doing now, just to giving you an overview of the system. So this is also available for later use here. All right. And then scrolling up, we have our recent items, anything that you may have clicked on. Say you don't want to go into each of these modules. If it shows you the last, I believe, 4 or 5 records, you can just click on one of these, right? And then finally, pending tasks and completed tasks. So if the task summary is by phases, this will show you a accumulation of all your pending tasks in one bucket. So if we click on it, let's see if I have anything here. All right, so I got a couple of things. All right, let's see, we have an issue award and process revision tasks. And then you can then also see anything that you've essentially assigned to someone else. So tasks like this aren't necessarily things that you create on your own. It's more so actions from the system. So say you send something for review, you'll see a copy of that here. Or say you've done something for a revision, you will see all of those tasks related to each of those actions. So you can see that it's related to which user. It could be an external user, it could be an internal user. You will see that here. All right, so now let's keep going. All right, to our planning tab. I'm currently logged in as someone that's a MEPOL executive user. So as an executive user for Salesforce, in relation to Salesforce, I'll be able to see everything throughout the system. So already you can see the call out where here's work ready, Perkins program, rapid response program. While you may not necessarily have to act upon those, you'll still have access through the whole range of programs. But let's click into our MEPOL program. So a couple of things here on this table. So we got a lot of icons here, right? You can always click on the view, which is the eyeball, to go straight into the funding opportunities, or I think we maybe call them RFPs. You can go here and see the accumulation of all the data. But if you click on the hyperlink here, this is the template that we're using for the MEPOL program. And when we click on it, we are generally not updating this pretty frequently. And, this is just a standard, or the template for everything throughout the system. So a lot of this information will get cascaded down throughout, depending on how we link it into the RFP or into an award. Okay. Funding information, this should populate once we start activating some awards in the system, and etc. All right, now I'm kind of lost, right? So I can go back either to the planning, or I can click on one of these left-hand navigation links. In this case, I'm just going to click on the planning tab. And then we're back to our table that says funding opportunity by program. But I'm still going to go through the left-hand side here. So we've gone through the program itself. Now we can go from the bottom here, and under the organization folder, you're going to see all of the active recipients in the system. Again, this is a test environment, so we don't really have a lot of the colleges listed here, but you could tell that we have the list, we have their I believe their UEI and DUNS, or no, just DUNS and EIN. We'll be reverting that to UEI in the future. But you can always look into any of your recipient information by going to the planning, organization, and then clicking onto, say, one of these hyperlinks from the account name column. And then right here, you'll be taken right into the organization where you can go ahead and just check out the information, point of contacts per program, any attachments that they have, and then the registered users that they have in the system. We have a couple primaries, a secondary. It looks like, in this case, only has access to rapid response, but we can always modify that and give users access to, say, Perkins, adult ed, right, and et cetera. Okay, and site visit module, and et cetera. All right, now we're still in the planning tab, so I'm going to now go up to manage funding sources. Okay, so as an executive, I will have access to view, right? But I won't have access to create any of these funding sources or funding codes in the system. That would be for our fiscal staff member or fiscal officer who will have the ability to create any of these shells or funding sources. So let's just click into one of these where we have what's called the funding source that holds the funding codes inside them. And then some of this might look familiar to you, where we have a fund number, we have the description of that fund, and then organization number, finance program number, and then the effective year, right? And so all of these will fall under the FY 19 and 20 year. Okay, so again, fiscal staff, it will only have the ability to do control all this information. Okay. All right, so now program area. So we just went over this bit here by clicking onto the hyperlink. So I'll pass that and let's go straight into the RFP. So once I'm on the planning tab, I'm here, right? I'm on this funding opportunity by program. If I click on the view icon or the eye icon here, I can see the related funding opportunities announcements related to the MEPOL program here. And as the executive user or program manager here, I'll have the ability to create a new opportunity. So here's the thing. Since you have the executive role, you will have the ability to look at all of the programs, but let's just click on MEPOL, right? And then from there, we can select the program allocation type, and then from there, the classification. In this case, we're going to choose basic. And when we hit continue, I'm not going to do all the data entry here. I will show you a completed one afterwards. But as we can see, all we have to do is insert data where we have the red asterisk, because this isn't submitting anything. You're not publishing anything as soon as you save. All you're doing is just updating the template, right? Getting the overall outline, and then you can go ahead and make the changes afterwards. But before you do all that, the system needs some basic info to fill out the full template for you. So in this case, we're going to go straight to application information. So most of this left-hand column is required. So things like, when would you like the application start date to be? It's usually a date, the current date and future. Application deadline, you can change it up to the hour and to the minute, right? You can then go from application review. Again, here, all you're stating to potential recipients that, yeah, we're going to start the review, but it doesn't necessarily mean that's going to be done by that day, right? Things happen, and but this is just to have a little guidance or outline, right? The point of contact will always be the person who created the record. In this case, it's going to reflect whoever has the access in this case, but you can always take this name out and then find another user by clicking on this schedule manager lookup or this point of contact lookup. And right now, let's see, do I have anyone I can look up? Okay, well, looks like we have someone. I can put this MEPOL person, MEPOL PM, another program staff member, to be the point of contact. Okay. And we have our estimated budget project period date. So see that it says estimated, again, we can make these changes once a user, say, creates an application, or say you draft an award. Again, this is just giving the system that outline to create the budget information and et cetera. All right, so notice that we only have to fill out what's in the red asterisk. Everything else you can come back and fill out, and it's not required for saving. Okay, so I'm gonna go hit cancel and just show you a completed one, and I'm gonna go back to our program. Click on the view, and then let's see, I created one, here we go. All right, so just like how in the other table, we have a hyperlink, and then we have a view icon. View icon shows you all the applications that have been submitted so far towards this RFP or funding opportunity, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on the hyperlink on the funding opportunity and open it in another tab. And then I'm going to click on this view applications link here. So right now, I see one application that has been submitted, and it looks like currently an award has been drafted towards this application. I see that it's from the Test MEPOL organization, and I saw that it was submitted today, earlier, right? And I see that the owner ID is the primary user from this organization. I have a copy of the application here that I can click on, and then of course I can always reference back to the funding opportunity. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to click on the application, where you can just take a look at it, right? And then we can follow along how this application went through and became an award, right? So just move some tabs around. All right, so I'm back on the funding opportunity. And I see after I saved, we have more tabs that opened up. When I created it, I only had that one tab, which was this first page here. Okay. Right now I can't edit it. I would have to unpublish to make the changes on this particular one, but to follow along, we have pre-application information where we can require any pre-app application in the system, pick out the deadline, pick out the review deadline, just similar how we did for that full application here. We can change the eligible applicant types. We can add other if necessary. And then, the federal award information can be entered in here as well. All right, so this terms and condition, we saw this populated from our MEPOL program hyperlink that we saw earlier. So a lot of this information is, again, trickles down. So I'll show another example of that. here is the funding code where the fiscal staff would have created this account, and then you, the PM, would associate this account after the fiscal staff would have created it for you. And we have the budget information, and we have the effective year. I can always link back to that funding code and click on it here. But for now, I'm just going to continue with the tabs. So, clickable forms. We saw these forms available back in our program, and I was able to select those forms from that program here, and then add them to the RFP. And so when anyone creates an application from this will be a required form in that application. You can see where all this stuff leads up in this information. So assignments. We had a little brief look at this with the point of contact, but you can assign individuals throughout the life cycle of this grant. So we have program staff who usually do the first round of approval, first round maybe in the revision, look at maybe the first round in the payment requests or progress reports. Same thing with the closeout. They'll be the first to just look at it, right? Then we have our finance staff, and sometimes this could be swapped. Sometimes maybe the finance or fiscal staff will look at the record first for the approval and then give it to the program staff, and vice versa, depending on the situation. But ultimately, the program manager will have the final say to approve, activate, publish, and move records forward or into completion. Okay. And again, this is what's gonna transfer over to the application and onto the revision. And whoever selected here for this particular opportunity would then be responsible in the future. And then we have our recipients tab. Since this is a formula allocation, we can locate all of these organizations and then select them to be part of that process to apply towards this particular grant. And again, this is all test data, right? It would all look things familiar to you, right? But for now, you'll see that we have our EIN number, we have what programs the organization already has access to, and then you will have a hyperlink to each of those organizations if you would want to just double check their information. All right, now the following tabs are for when you've already published and we have records already created in the system, but you can always come back to the funding opportunity to give you all of that information in one spot. So I can see all of the applications that have been submitted on this tab for this particular funding opportunity here. Just how everything kind of just leads to the funding opportunity and to the application. So multiple ways to get here, but safest bet is to always go into the funding opportunity and to look into these related applications or related grants to see any of the drafted revisions or active revisions or even the closed ones. In this case, we have one here that we can go ahead and check out after this. We have attachment tabs if I've included anything, and then finally our approval. So we saw that I created this record, and then when I submitted for internal approval, it went to the FO, where the FO verified that this funding code matches everything that is pertinent to this particular program here or funding opportunity. So when I publish this opportunity, I can go into the system as a recipient and apply towards this. So now I'm going to move from my browser. So right now I'm on my green Chrome browser. I'm going to switch over to this black browser, and where I am, I will log in as a recipient user, as a primary from an organization. In this case, we call them external users. So I will look for my test account that I have. Oh, I already had it open. Nice. All right. This is a little behind the scenes of how to proxy login or ghost login as an admin. But this is how we would like triage a ticket. I would log in as that user, sign in as them, and then try to see what they're seeing in the system, right? And this is how I'll be able to do that. All right, so I'm currently logged in as my primary user for Test MEPOL organization. And again, this is a test account. So we have a lot of data, right? But this is just a glimpse of what potentially a user would see in the system. A lot of submit for reimbursement progress reports. And again, this particular test MEPOL user may not have just access to MEPOL, right? They could have access to Perkins, rapid response, and adult ed, right? And they would have the responsibility to control all of that within their one profile. In the past, we told people to have multiple accounts for multiple programs, but now we're doing this consolidation of just having one point of contact, one primary user for all of the programs. Some cases are still, two individuals per organization that don't mix, right? Perkins on one side and adult ed, there's two separate things. But in some cases, yeah, everything can be all in one, and that user will have the ability to apply for any of these funding opportunities that are created by Egrants or Louisiana. And one example here is I have one rapid response opportunity that I could apply to. But I see these MEGL ones, right? So just like how we have an internal, we have these icons that we can click on. All right, and so in this case, it looks like I can go ahead and apply towards one of these. And let me see if I have another one I can use. Let's see. Anything that says DC is something that I've created. So let me just click on this and see if I can get a error message or something here. Okay, here we go. So I just clicked on what's called the funding opportunity, and my intention is to apply. But before I do that, I'm going to be giving the pertinent information of this particular RFP here. So I see that this is who I should contact if I have any questions. I see that this could be the period that I'm working in here, and then I see that the ceiling is $1 million, right? And then the project start date can fall within this time frame. So okay, all right, I'm interested. So if I click on pre-application, again, I think I may have already done one, so it may not let me. But yeah, here we go. Perfect. So pre-application already exists for this opportunity. Click here to view pre-application. So in most cases, we can tell the user like, hey, you actually already have something in the system. We're not going to let you, make another one. But if this was to be checked out originally, this allow multiple applications from grantee, then I would have been allowed to create a brand new application for this same opportunity, even though I've already created one. Let's click on this hyperlink and let's see if it will actually take me to that pre-application that I created. All right, great, it did. Took me straight to it. It looks like I've already submitted it actually. So, oh, look at that. How did I forget that, right? But the system, kind of picks up where you're at sometimes, and it does take some navigation to get used to. But for the most part, we do try to lead the user in a certain direction, right? So here I have my pre-application from that funding opportunity that I just tried to apply towards. I see the FO link as well. Again, we'll always take you to that opportunity, and then any of the basic information that we see here, right? Will the client fill this out each time they create an application? No. So when they create their accounts and they register in the system, this is all the information that they have presented to register. And if it's approved, this is what will carry forward into the system. So most of the time where we saw, right, I just have to click on that create pre-application, and the template will pick up all these fields for me or for the user for less data entry, right? So now let's go into the forms. This is where the annual performance report and some MEPOL customization may have come into play. But for now, this is what the pre-app application looks like. We have the regional labor market area information and up top. And then from here, we have all of the forms inside this one line item here. So if I click on this view icon, we're going to be opened up to another table that has over 6 tabs here, right? So all of this information will be pulled, right, and then continue to carry forward into the award, and then finally into, say, the closeout, and then into the annual reporting. All this is captured right at the beginning. The user will do all this data entry themselves. The primary user or the secondary user will enter all of this data, okay, per tab. They will insert their descriptions. They can copy and paste from, say, a Word document or a Google Doc or something. Just copy paste that information, add all the the industry partners, and etc. This might look familiar to you here, and part 4. All of this will then be carried forward onto the application. All right, so let me just go back one step. So now I'm back into the pre-application, back on the form tab, and I can still see my form here that I can check later. I see that it's been validated, meaning that I filled out every single tab to its potential, right? And doesn't mean that it's correct or anything. It just means that I filled it all out, right? And again, form templates, we saw this on our program where I can select what required documents or what optional documents we want to have attached onto this here. So this classification where it says direct and indirect costs required is coming from here, direct and indirect costs, okay? So you can also see how far you can go with adding more documents or things like that, and how the system can just keep that information for you. If necessary, you can do a pre-application revision. So when, say, you check the form and you find a discrepancy, right? You can flag it to the user during the review process. So right now, I'm looking at this as the primary user. So I won't have access to all of those hyperlinks as an internal user would. So I'm going to pause here. I'm going to go back to my green browser as the internal user and see if we can follow along here. All right, we have covered the home tab. We have covered the planning tab. Planning tab, your best friend here will be the funding opportunity that you create or someone else creates, where you can see everything that is related to this particular fund. Applications, the related grants. But how about that review process? How can I actually go through and see that application and then also see the form that I'm supposed to fill out to take this application to revision? All right. I'm going to click on the applications tab. And I am immediately taken to our submitted applications table. We're going to see when the application was recently submitted, and then we can see the deadline for that application as well. As the PM, I will have access to view all pre-applications. I will be able to see all submitted pre-applications, in progress applications. So if someone creates the template, saves it, you should be able to view that at least that person is working on it, right? And then when they finally submit it, you'll be able to see the full work that they've submitted here. So from there, we have our managed pre-application review. we have our pending pre-application revision, and we have our completed pre-application revision. All right, we want to go to manage pre-application revision. And we're going to go to our program here where we're going to manage the reviews. In this case, looks like I didn't create one, so my apologies. So I'm going to take you back to our funding opportunity and show you two buttons on top of that particular opportunity, okay? So I'm going to click on the hyperlink to go back into it. So if I don't see my review listed here, I see a bunch of Perkins, but I don't see anything about MEPOL, right? Maybe I didn't push the applications to review. In this case, I probably didn't push the pre-applications to review. So these buttons here can help you throughout the system if you kind of get lost or you don't see the full picture of it, right? So again, I can't stress this enough. If you want to keep going throughout the system, the best starting point is the opportunity that you created, because you'll have access to, say, unpublish it. We'll have access to extend the deadlines, and then finally, say you have that one applicant, and the rest can just apply when they need to, right? But you at least got that one that you want to push through, right? So this person here, in our scenario, test MEPOL.org, submitted their application. I went ahead and clicked on push applications to review. And then subsequently, I was able to create a grant. By doing so, I went to the, let's see, manage reviews. Same thing. We're going to go to our MEPOL program, click on the view reviews. And so here, I'll see the table of applications. I will see the opportunity. In some cases, you can even find them by the funding opportunity title, but it's currently sorted by application deadline. So if you know more or less when you're gonna push these applications through, it's going to be sorted by the application deadline. So the one that I was working on, let's see, there we go. I'm gonna click on this magnifying glass where it says manage reviews. Manage reviews. So this will take me to what's called the review panel, and this will let me push that application through and create that revision that we're talking about. So now, this FO basic 273 is this one here. All right, I've already done this. I already clicked on this button, and I've already created my review, this little table here. The system will create this for you once you click on this. All you need is just one application to push this through, right? And so when I click on the view icon here, this line item is already created for you. What we have to do is create our review panel and get our users to look at these applications, right, that have been submitted. And in this case, I go into my review panel, and then I can go ahead and add reviewers. These reviewers are users in the system, or they're SMEs from that work throughout Louisiana, right? And you can select any of these users and then invite them to review this list of applications here. So again, we only have the one here. And when I assign them, I'm assigning them that one application there, okay? So then finally on this third tab, we see the review itself, okay? We can see what has been conducted. So let's click on this hyperlink, and we saw that another user, MEPOL PM, went ahead and did this. I'm gonna hyperlink, and it's gonna open in a new tab. Okay, and I have a couple options here. So it's already telling me that this particular application has already been drafted, so that's good, right? I can't modify anything. It's going to link me to the application. So one trick that we tell folks is if you're going through a review process, just go ahead and open up that application in another tab. And there isn't really a way to get this um, hyperlink to open up and say like a little mini window or like somewhere within the same screen. You would have to just reference the application in a separate tab. And then from there, you can go ahead and provide your responses to set questions of this particular review process. And then finally, we can download this as a PDF where you can share this throughout the system or anywhere else, right? There's going to be other ways to download this, so I'll show you that in a moment. But for now, one suggestion we have is if you're ever given that responsibility to conduct a review and you click on your review, and then when you finally get into it and all you're seeing is just this big old table, again, we just recommend to click on this hyperlink to have the application on a separate browser or a separate tab, and we can just kind of go back. But yeah, that's just one practice that we recommend. All right, and then of course the PDF version of it that you can pass along. All right, close that, close the review. All right, so I now have an application that has gone through the review process and has gone through the internal pending award review, where I went back and forth with the MEPOL staff member and then the fiscal officer to go ahead and approve this revision that we created from this application. Okay. On this application, this is all of this information, grant narrative, summary budget. I'll get there soon. And this is like the best part here, but we'll so let me slow it down to give this a better walkthrough. So then finally, insurance certification. Again, we see these form templates come up again. Will all be copied onto our award here, or our revision of this grant. We see that the budget information is just copied over again and throughout the system. So let me now go back to the application and go through the summary budget. All right. So this right here is specific to MEPOL and only MEPOL only. When we create a budget in the system, each program has their own distinctions, and MEPOL is no different. And in this case, we have two tables that work together. You must enter one to fill out the other. In this case, we see this MEPOL federal cost share, where I've entered an amount that then needs to be matched from, or also it needs to be matched on this side by the recipient. So when I send this to the recipient, they will be responsible to fill this out themselves and provide you that itemized line items in that budget. So we have salaries. We have, let's see, it looks like there's something for equipment, where they can tell you, where that cost share is going to, and then how that is broken down. Okay. And from there, all of this, as you can see, as soon as I close this modal window, the whole page refreshes. So that's just to keep the integrity right and making sure we're calculating all this as you go along. And that's just one of the newer features for MEPOL here. Okay. I'll give it a pause if you just want to take a look, because maybe you can kind of start formulating where you can fit where your current grants are at, or see how you can kind of fit this in. But this all this information, again, I'm now going to switch to another tab, and it's copied right onto our revision, and where again, you can create amendments from this or the payment requests from this, right? So when I go into reporting cycles, I can set the schedule to either say a monthly, I can probably set it to a quarterly, however you would like, right? And then we can set it towards a fixed date, or we can just keep it within the boundaries of the budget periods that you've entered all the way from your funding opportunity. So again, this is trickling down all the way to the revision, okay? And again, each award can be different, right? Not everyone has to follow that same structure. So say you can want this person to be quarterly versus monthly, that is up to you. We can change the due dates and etc. So afterwards, the schedule is created, and we see this is supposed to be the time frame that these reports are going to be created in the future. We can see that if the grantee is notified, it will either have a checkbox and or the ID of that record, okay, which I'll show you in a moment. All right, all the attachments that have been accumulated. So as we see, this is the revision, right? But we have the attachment or the history of the application in that revision as well, right? As a PDF. So we have, collecting all of that history. And then finally, the approvals of this particular revision. All right. So if I click on issue award, I'm now activating this award, and the user now has a live version or revision in the system. Fingers crossed, everyone. Let's see if we get an error message. But you can probably, look at that. What did I forget to do? All right, I forgot to put the grant award notification. This is a little two-step process, right? Where I will click on the download again. Then I will, let's see, it's gonna take a little second to gather its information. So, all right, perfectly. It auto downloads. So ideally, if this doesn't work, it's due to pop-up blockers, ad blockers, maybe a firewall or a proxy or something they may have, just preventing you from doing this. But I would suggest getting those little things worked out, like cookies. If you're going in incognito mode, enable cookies where you can go ahead and have access to all of this information for these like auto downloads, right? And so if I open this, let me see, I should have Word document, Word in here. Okay, great. Give it a second to load before you reattach it and sign it, right? So yeah, as the message states, please upload signed formal grant award notification in order to issue the award. How does the system know that? Well, I would go to add attachments, and then on this, I see signed grant award notification. I will have to reinsert that copy of mine, right, into the system. Oh, my apologies. I have it in like dark mode, but it'll look different for you. But here is an example of said agreement where the user would go ahead and manually sign this and present this back to you. All right, I found it here. I'm just going to go ahead and reattach it. Okay, great. I can exit out of that. And well, hopefully that's it, right? Let's see, I got my funding code just inserted and it's active. I have the budget information. Again, I'm not touching this. This has already been taken care of through the application. And then during the initial review of this revision, once I issue, I can't really go back. I can go ahead and change my roles and responsibilities. So again, this is who you want to do the post monitoring on this particular revision. Again, copied over from the funding opportunity. So it's been long established that this is just going to keep moving forward, okay? And then finally, we have our assurances, certification information that we've already seen. Wrong tab. Reporting, attachments, and approval. All right, let's click on issue award. And I think that should kind of cover, I'm not going to make it to the reimbursements and closeout just yet, but I will show you an example of one. All right. Where are we at? Okay, so I finally activated, or in this case, issued our revision. I could, let's see, where is my, there we go. So once this refreshes, I can click on the grant information here. And then this should give you a better view of everything here. So we have our grant that has our funding information. Now we have a new tab called revisions. So we see the award that we just created here, okay? We have our amendment requests table, and then we have another one for closeout. So all in one, for this particular award, you will see all that information for them. All right, so now another customization for MEPOL. So everyone has a grant budget, okay? You know, all of the programs have a grant budget, but grant actuals is a new tab that has been introduced for MEPOL. So my understanding, this works with the reimbursements tab. So everything that we have approved here is going to be reflected onto this table as well, okay? And then finally, Parks Report tab. So this one, you already see the button here, our annual Parks Report. So it's not going to be that monthly one that all the other users experience, but here you will be able to generate that one Parks Report for this one award, okay? So this doesn't create it for all of the revisions. You would have to go to each and every award created to do so. And then finally, the accumulation of all the attachments for this award. So you're going to see attachments coming from approved, the approved application, the approved revisions, the approved amendment requests. You're going to see all that stashed and stored here, okay? But then in the actual revision itself, you're just going to see the attachments that were only included for this one particular revision, right? So it's not going to be the accumulation of all of it. So difference between grant view and then revision view. Revision is that narrow point, and the grant view is that holistic view of everything, okay? And then finally, let's look at post grants. I know I'm running out of time here, but let me just get you that major highlights here. So we're working on reimbursements mostly here. So as the executive, again, you'll see all of this information, but you can always just go to the MEPOL line item, and then we see a couple flags here, okay? I can see all the recon reports. I can see look all the closeouts. I can see all of the amendments, all of the progress reports, and all of the reimbursements related to MEPOL. So, you can click on any of these 5 icons, right? But we're just going to focus on view reimbursements and filter out only the MEPOL payment requests. So let me just click on one of these that has been approved. There we go. And I'm now going to close this and then give you, let's see, where is the grant view? Here's our grant budget information. All right, take a look again. We have our federal cost share. Then once I go into that reimbursement, I go to the expense detail, I'm going to essentially see the same information. Okay, but now now we see where how that full budget breakdown is going to happen into the from the reimbursement request. So this is where grant budget and grant actuals come into play after the expense detail has been approved. Okay, so these two tabs won't refresh until this has been approved, and sometimes there can be an issue with this, but for the most part, it will take the last approved reimbursement and update the grant budget. Okay. All right, and so here we can also download this PDF if necessary, right? If not, the system is essentially taking over what you're doing in Excel, and the users are able to submit these detailed summary budgets, per line item, right? So for our next meet, we're going to go a little further depth in post grants. So the idea next time we meet, hopefully we can get you involved in the click through in our training environment. This is where you can try to mimic the process that you have in the live environment, and then eventually, once we get the okay from you that this fits, then we're going to push this up to production and into the live Egrants version. But for now, this is all sitting in just one of our testing environments. So we plan to push this up one more level, which is our training environment or user acceptance environment. And then from there, I'll be able to provide you not the credentials, but the scripts to follow to create your own user or log in as potentially yourself in the system to try to follow this flow, right? So for now, I'm going to go ahead and pause or stop sharing, and then we can kind of strategize on the next meet here if you want to go more hands-on, or if you just want another overview in between the hands-on.
Yeah, Devin. So I guess next time we meet, can we also show how they can skip some of the application process, kind of similar to what Adult Ed does?
Right. Yes, they can draft. You can draft the award straight from the funding opportunity. Yes, we can also do that flow as well.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's probably more in line with the MEPOL process.
Okay, great. Yep, we can do that too. Yeah, and then that's even easier because most I'm back on the funding opportunity here. I think I did put one of these application start dates, but there is an extra button here that's called Draft Award, and all it does is it finds the user that you've selected from this list, and then you can go ahead and select that organization, and then from there bypass all this application review stuff, the review panel, and go straight into the revision, and then you'll be able to create the grant. So I can show that flow next. Okay.
All right. Okay, thanks.
All right, so let me stop sharing, and I will pass this along.